During my dashboard.
Hey, come out of the sunroof. Maybe you can get out of the car that way.
Hey, Tony, I'll give you some sun and it won't be in the roof, okay? Come on. You couldn't have shifted it over
I
this side.
wouldn't line up with the pads. I don't know why, man.
Quit your bitch and get out of the car.
Oh, Jesus.
So open up. What do you got? A magnet from Rock Auto. You know what this is like? This is like adult Cracker Jack prizes.
Yeah.
Every time you open up your Rock Auto thing, you get one of these magnets. It's like opening up Cracker Jacks, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, look. That's right.
That's how they giving out now, drinks.
Smells like motor oil. Tastes like piss.
All right.
It's got to be antifreeze.
So what are we doing with this car today?
We're going to change the front struts on it. The front strut, Brian said the coil spring broke under load factor due to consumption of too many Klondike bars at the NASCAR races.
Yes. Yes, that is true. But it also was because of other factors that followed the Klondike bars that I gave out as gifts to pretty women at the NASCAR races.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
All right. This Steve and I got you something. It's a Klondike bar holder for your dashboard.
Oh, nice. Nice.
We're always thinking of you, Brian.
It's Rubbermaid. That's
there you
that's where you put all your rubbers.
You can put it right in the dishwasher.
So we removed the rubber piece across the front here, the weather strip, and removed the black cover. And we've exposed the 4 13mm bolts for the tops of the struts. We're gonna just crack these loose, and we're gonna use the speed gun to take them off. We already set the vehicle up on the lift, so after we get this zipped up, we'll put it up in the air, pull the wheels off. This one's running into this thing, so as we lower the suspension, this thing should drop down. So we'll take that one off last. As we lift it up, that should drop down. Let's go get the other ones over here.
Going to step up in there.
I can go up a little bit. This will be the same thing with this one. Yeah, that's good. Running into that.
No dice.
Didn't drop down.
Nope.
This one just dropped right down. You may have to lift the car up more, Brian.
That one doesn't have the spring on it.
Yeah, I know.
I got the wheel free there.
Okay, so this one came out. It's dropping down. So now we can take this one off last. So we're gonna have to stop this bolt, this nut, first, because it's tight up against this bracket here. This is one of those 12-point German reverse sockets.
It's a blitzkrieg socket.
Yeah, so we're trying to avoid that. So let's go back over this side here. There you go. Brian's pushing down on the tire a little bit. Okay, we got enough. All right. So we're using our pull tool to pull out the center thing for the wheels, and then it snaps out. He's just snapping with these nice fancy German clips here. So we're gonna get a 17mm and remove the wheel. So the wheel's a little frozen onto the hub, so we're gonna tap it from the backside with a hammer. We're gonna never seize this, so guy gets a flat on the side of the road, be able to get the wheel off. So we're changing the strut on this, and the bolt that goes through the top two upper control arms here for the ball joints is frozen in the aluminum housing here. So we're gonna go a different direction on this thing, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave that intact for now, and we're gonna disconnect the stabilizer link, the sway bar link over here, which is a 16 millimeter or a 5/8 with a gear wrench we have set up. We're gonna pull this one off, and we have the other side disconnected because we already changed the strut over there. It's the same procedure, and the other side was frozen as well. So we're gonna take this bolt off right now because there's no tension on it, because we have the other one off. And when we go to put it back together, when we catch one side, the arm is gonna be up higher. So we're gonna have to pry down in here, and there's metal in here that we can pry down. So we got this disconnected for now. Pull that down out of the way, get our bolt off. It's a 16 millimeter. We're gonna never seize everything when we go back together. And we have, over here, we have a 17 millimeter bolt that, you guys can see it in here. Right here, there's a 17 millimeter bolt. And we're gonna take this off. It's got a bracket that the two lines connect to right here. Is brake lines and this ABS line. We're gonna pop those off, and then we're gonna spread the sleeve on the bottom of the strut here. Now we still have the strut bolted to the top tower right now, and when we spread this open, and we can tap down on this. So there's a 17 millimeter bolt that only goes around the front over here. There's a 17 millimeter bolt here. Actually, I think this is an 18. And we're gonna take this out. So this is gonna drop down, and we're gonna have some play so that we can tap the whole arm down and take it off of the strut, because we cannot disconnect these two ball joints, upper control arm joints, because this bolt is frozen in the housing. Now we've seen some other videos where they had the whole arm off in the bench, and they've had to hammer this thing out with a air hammer and work the bolt back and forth. We're just trying to change the struts tonight. When we go to change the ball joints at some point, we'll have to deal with this. This is aluminum. We really don't want to heat this. It's kind of a touchy subject. We're going to soak it with oil and see what happens. Perfect example, if this thing was all never seized, this would come apart, but it's not coming apart. So we're going a different route. So we're gonna, these two hoses are on the brackets right here, and we're gonna pry these up and get these out of here. On this bracket, there's one, and this bottom one pushes out this ABS line. This one was really tight, trying to get this one out. I got my thumbs in here, pushing on it. This one's really, there it is. Okay, so now we're gonna take this bolt off here with this bracket, and that's gonna loosen the bottom here, and then we're gonna finish taking off the bottom bolt here for the arm that's connected to his lower control arm, and we're gonna squeak this strut out. And it's not the easiest thing. We're gonna loosen the strut up. We have to pry down on the lower control arm so that we can separate this to get it out, and it's pretty tight. We don't really have an option because we can't get this bolt out right now. So we get some tools set up, and we'll get this bottom bolt out. All right, this is 18 millimeter. We're gonna take this off. This one's coming off a lot easier than the other side did. All right, this bracket here, when it goes back on for the brake line, It has a stopper on it, so it hits right there, so you can't really screw that up. It's gonna go straight up position like that. We just pull this bolt out now. All this has to get wire wheeled, brake clean, wire wheeled up, and then never seized. Now we're gonna spread this open a little bit, and then try and tap down on this and see if it comes off the strut. See how it's moving already? So we got it to move already. So this thing is loose, and we've sprayed it with penetrating oil. We're gonna tap it so that it goes down. We have to get it off this down here. So we'll tap it down, and then we're gonna pry down on the control arm because it's hitting right now. Down here at the bottom. So we're gonna pry down on the lower control arm and finish tapping this thing out of the way. And we have to really pull this thing to one side to get this to come off. And we're probably gonna struggle with a couple guys to do it. If we could have got this bolt out, it would have been a lot easier. So let's get the pry bar in here and see if we can pry down on this. Moving. There it goes. Okay, it's pretty much down the bottom. Now we gotta struggle to get this thing out because it was pretty tight. But what we did was we ended up pulling the strut to one side, and we had another pry bar coming up over the top to take some pressure off this spring. And that's the direction we're gonna have to go here to get this thing out. I got more just play down here, Brian. You can tap this thing down some more. That's a hammer. Let's see if we can tap this down. Let's see if we can get this thing to come up a little now with the other pry bar.
Where is it?
Brian, I can push down with this with two more hands here. You're gonna have to tap this more. It should come down.
Yep.
Okay, tap on the back side of this thing. There we go. Okay, now we got to swing the strut out of the way to get this thing out.
Hold it. Hold it. I think it comes to the front.
There you go. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Just keep flying it over all the way. Here we go. Alright. So we left the strut bolts on the top here so that we can hammer down on the little wishbone there to take off that's connected to the bottom of the strut. And now we're going to loosen these up, take these off. And this whole housing is plastic up here, so you gotta be careful with this thing. And we're going to center our bolts with the housing. This one hits, so you have to lower them down a little bit, and then you can take this one off. There. And I'm going to hold the strut here as I take this last one out. And we're going to pull the strut down and just feed it right out this way here. Okay. And we have a new quick strut. So we have a new coil spring, a new mount, and everything. So it'll go back the other way. All right, so when this is back in the car, this slides onto this, and then this is going to bottom out on the piece right here. Okay, so we're going to open this thing up a little bit so that we know it slides right on, and we're going to never seize it all up, and then we're going to put it back in place. But this is where it bottoms out, right in here where my thumb is. So we're going to put this in the bench, open this up just a little bit more. Never seize everything so it slides right on. So when we put it in place, we know it's going to go in place. And as the lower control arm puts pressure on, it's going to force the strut down into this. You'll be able to look with a mirror to make sure it's bottomed out and make sure that it's in place. So we're going to spread this out right now, and then we're going to never seize all of this up. All right, so we'll put a little never seize in here. And we've seen that the nuts they gave us for the top of the strut mounts, the washers on the OEM ones that are built in there are a little wider. And I want to show you that. We're going to use, here's the ones that they gave us with the strut right here. And the washer base isn't very large. And the OEM ones here will show you. The washers are a lot wider. And I'm more comfortable with this. Now remember, you know, this is all composite in here. So we're using the OEM ones. We're going to use all the OEM ones here. Now this is the side that we already put in and we caught the struts. So we'll put, catch all these. We're going to tighten these down last. And we're going to move this around and get it centered to where the old nuts were so that, the alignment is as close as it can be. So let's get ready to get the strut in place now. So the strut's only going to go in one way. The way the bolt pattern is on it, it's kind of offset. It looks like this little knob here is going to go backward. So we're going to try and fit this in here and see if we can get this in place. Are you ever wrong, Brian?
Yeah.
All right, so the nub goes forward on this side and backward on the driver's side. So we're going to hold this place, catch the OEM nuts because they have the wider washer that we like. Okay. I'm going to get them all caught. We're going to kind of leave it loose because we need to pry around on this strut to get for it to fall in place with the wishbone, if you will, that goes onto the lower control arm. So this thing's all kind of flopping around now, but we have some room to move it around inside here so that we can get that to line up. So we're going to put the car back up in the air, and then we're going to get that bottom wishbone in place. All right, so Brian is feeding the fork back in, the wishbone, if you will, back in. Now we got to pry down on the lower control arm to get the strut to fit into this hole here. And, this is just a different way of doing it. I wish we had an easier way, but that is not the case.
That right up.
All right, so we got our bracket. We put our bolt back in here, 18 millimeter, and we're catching our bolt back here. And we're going to snug this all up. And we got in here, we showed you that how the strut is bottomed right down here. You can see on the inside over here, it's all bottomed out, sitting where it has to be. So we know that this wishbone that connects to the lower control arm is all the way up on the strut as high as we can get it. We're going to tighten this up right now, and then this is what holds our ABS lines in place. And it has a stopper where it's going to hit the strut. It'll be in the perfect position for that. So let's tighten this up right now. And we have a 18 millimeter here on this. Now we have to wire wheel this bolt, and we never seized everything, so we can get everything nice and easy to go back together. The driver's side came apart really hard right at the end. It was really tight. So spend a few minutes never seizing really pays off for you. And I'm going to snug this up. After we get it all in, we'll really pull down on it. Get it tight. All right, that's it. Now we're going to get our lower control arm bolt back in place. We wire wheeled this one up as well, and we never seized it. get this one to slide in. This one all gooped up good. And remember, we had our bolt coming in this way because we had to knock it out with the punch. So I'm gonna get the big pry bar and we're gonna pry down on this control arm and try and line this up. Try and get our bolt to catch in here. A little persuader. Okay, put that in. Put the nut on it. Tighten this up with the gun. These are both 18s. Okay, we got that nice and tight. Now we're gonna get our two sleeves back in the bracket here, and we're gonna put a little. This one's got a little oil on it already from penetrating oil, and you got to work these back into these clips. And these things were tight. That one just snapped in nice. And that one snapped in nice. Okay, so these are in. This is tight. A lower bolt is tight. All we have to do is line up our stabilizer link now and then pry down on it to get it to line up. And these things are pretty stiff. Oh, we're gonna pry down on this link and get this bolt started. We get the bar in here, we're prying down, and this thing is really stiff. Trying to line it up here. We still have the other side disconnected. So we should be able to get this thing to just line up and catch the threads here. And the other side will be the fighter. Okay, got it to catch. You got to really make sure that this thing is caught right. We use the 5/8 gear wrench or 16 millimeter, and you got to make sure that this thing catches nice and easy. You don't want to cross thread this. And we got this thing tightening up nice. Once this is tight, we're going to go catch the one on the other side. And then we're going to tighten our 4 nuts on the top that we use the OEM ones. And we want the nuts to go right back in the same spot, the washer spaces, the same spot that they were in. And so we're going to go catch the link on the other side. We've got our brake lines intact over here. We've got our bolt with our plate tight that's just holding the wishbone onto the strut. We have our lower bolt for the wishbone in place down on the very bottom, down in this area here that Tony seen earlier, the one down over here. So this is tight. So we got everything back in play. Now we have to go a different way on this because of this, you know, German engineered bolt that wouldn't come out, but that's all right. So we found a different route, and you actually needed a couple guys to pull down on this thing to get it out. So, but like I said, we were able to pull the wishbone forward, pry the strut forward, and we kind of rolled them in together, and that's how it came to play. Everything was lubricated. We tried it first on the bench to make sure it was spread open enough, and we were good. So we're going to go back on that side. We'll tighten that final stabilizer link over there. We'll tighten the 4 bolts on each side of the top of the strut.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to snug these down a little bit. And you know, I'm kind of funny about trying to get them exactly where they were. You know, probably doesn't make much of a difference, but you know, just a little just a little time here.
And don't over tighten those because
No,
that's a
I'm
composite.
snapping them down, and then I'm gonna tighten them with the hand ratchet.
The shock towers in this are actually a composite material, not metal.
So we get this one down.
You sure about that?
A positive.
Just gonna snug this up. Okay, and I use the OEM nuts because they have a wider flange on the bottom that I like. And snug there, snug there. Okay.
Not only is he good at snugging nuts, he invented the snuggie.
All right, we're gonna tighten this last one up. You're off the ground? No, get off the ground. Wondering why I wouldn't push down, because it ain't off the ground.
Hey, you're the one who said stop, okay?
Yeah, you're right. There it is. All right, we're gonna snug these up now. I know Brian will sleep better tonight if I get these in the exact same position. So that's what it's all about.
It actually doesn't matter.
You're just saying that.
You wouldn't sleep right.
You done yet?
No,
Done yet?
dragging this out.
Come on out. You done yet?
We are officially done.
You forgot a
I'll
piece.
put the cover back on over here, and that's gonna be the end of it. Brian said it's here for 10 minutes. That's it, folks.
Yeah, who's ready to sleep?
There's a piece of foam here.
Yeah.
The rubber back in place. Everything's back together on this thing. Should be smooth riding for Brian.
And we're done.
Job done.